Now, over in the UK, the ultra-low emission zone scheme has been expanded to Greater London, but the British people are protesting against it. An anti-ULEZ vigilante group known as the Blade Runners has committed itself to removing or disabling every last ULEZ camera in London. Mayor Sadiq Khan is learning that if you tax the poor, this is what you get.
This is what one man can do to the ULEZ in less than half a day.
We're not, of course, endorsing any of that. We wouldn't do that.
Not.
But joining us now from London is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Esther, thank you so much for your time. Tell me about how many of these cameras have been damaged or disabled. Is the scheme doomed?
The scheme, I wish it was doomed. Unfortunately, I happen to live in a boundary town where these ULEZ cameras have been going up. So I can actually say I'm personally outraged by this. But the last time I checked, about a quarter of all the cameras have been destroyed or vandalized, and extra police resources have needed to be mobilized to actually stop these people from what they're doing. And I must admit, these police officers are going around in vans, which is not exactly environmentally friendly. So sounds like Sadiq Khan has shot himself in the foot there. But the reality is, the reason why people are so incensed by this ULEZ expansion is for two main reasons. One, the data around it actually improving air quality in London is very, very low. It's very dodgy, and it's highly contested. And the reality is, when a car in the UK passes its MOT, there is an emissions test as part of the MOT test as well. And if it fails that, it's not allowed to be on the road. It's not roadworthy. So most people don't understand why we already have that sort of legislation in place. And Sadiq Khan is now, making it more difficult for motorists to get around London by implementing this ULEZ policy, which actually would be effectively useless in 2 years anyway, because the emissions sort of requirements will be updated in 2 years. Another reason why people are also incensed is the fact that this ULEZ scheme is estimated to draw £1 billion into Sadiq Khan's coffers and effectively plug the hole in London's ever-growing debt. And so most people just don't understand why this is necessary, other than to effectively impoverish people that are already struggling to get by. So the people that are effectively vandalizing these ULEZ cameras are very incensed, and they're very serious. And even people that aren't are still outraged by this policy.
Well, Esther, it is amazing to me to hear you say that the police are spending their resources trying to defend these cameras when they can't, catch a burglar and they can't prosecute people for mayhem at the Notting Hill Carnival. But I would put it to you that really the true point of this ULEZ scheme seems to be less about saving the planet or saving the air quality in London, which we know historically has always been a bit of a thing, but rather about, this is essentially a tax on people who don't have enough money or class to drive an expensive electric vehicle from moving from point A to point B easily. This is a movement restriction tax on the people, and that, I think, is why people are rebelling. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you have to remember the most vulnerable people that will be hit by this ULEZ policy. You can have an old woman trying to go to church in sort of a neighboring town that's going to be hit by a £12.50 a day fine, or women that are traveling at night, or families that need to get by. There are very many people that are going to be negatively affected by this ULEZ expansion. And the reality is, Sadiq Khan's excuse that this is going to improve air quality, the data actually is very limited. He paid Imperial College £800,000 over 2 years to come up with data to prove that this would be effective. And when they didn't, his office had the audacity to send an email saying they were disappointed by the findings because the actual benefits of this ULEZ expansion would be negligible. And we only discovered this because of a Freedom of Information Act request that was put in. So Sadiq Khan has really failed the working class of London by implementing this ULEZ scheme, and it's going to be completely ineffective. And the sad thing is, even though this was contested in the High Court, he was still allowed to expand, and it's very disappointing.